Center for the Ethiopian Educational Information and Communication Technology presents Educational Satellite Television Programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on writing. Previously, we discussed the importance of clarification. We used different expressions to ask people for more clarification, and we also learned expressions we may use to give clarification. We explained that clarification is critical to communicating in the English language. Many times, we must clarify the information we are giving to someone because it is too vague or imprecise. Today, we will discuss how to use English to provide specific details. We will examine a statistical report. Then, we will explain some of the expressions we can use to provide the most accurate information instead of describing our findings in a general way. Are you ready, students? Let us begin. I am sure by now most of you are familiar with bar and line graphs from your classes in mathematics. Graphs are often used to compare the effects of one variable on another. One variable is measured horizontally along the x-axis. The other variable is measured vertically along the y-axis. For instance, let us say we are trying to find out how far a car can travel on a single tank of petrol. In this case, one way to graph the information would be to measure the distance the car travels along the x-axis and to measure the amount of petrol remaining on the y-axis. At the bottom of the graph, you will see different indicators that show an increase in distance from left to right. If we were to conduct this report ourselves, we would check the car's gasoline tank every 20 kilometers. Eventually, the line we draw across the graph will reach 0 when the car runs out of petrol. This tells us how far the car can go. We can even compare this to several cars, drawing new lines every time we test their mileage. This tells us which car performs better overall. This type of graph is called a line graph, but we also record statistical data on bar graphs. Get ready for an activity, students. How is a bar graph different from a line graph?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, everyone. I am sure you had no trouble explaining the difference between the two graphs. The main difference between the two graphs is that a line graph records changes over two variable factors, one of which is usually time or distance. Bar graphs simply compare multiple pieces of data for one variable factor. Good job, students. This bar graph shows the change in mobile phone and internet usage between the year 2000 and 2009. We can see that there are many differences between the two sets of data. So let us describe the information we are presented with. In the year 2000, the number of mobile phone subscribers was slightly higher than the number of internet users. In the 9 years after, the number of mobile phone subscribers has risen dramatically. Based on this information, it seems likely that the number of mobile phone subscribers will continue to grow sharply, while the number of internet users will probably flatten out or stabilize when every household has internet access. A trend on a graph means the behavior we anticipate if we observe more of the same data. Right now, the amount of mobile phone subscriptions and the amount of internet users are dramatically increasing. Considering that mobile phones and internet are important to our everyday lives, we expect the trend to continue. Students, here are some of the ways we just described the data on the report. However, all of these terms deal with an increase in numbers. How would we describe a graph that has decreasing trends? Here is a new set of data. The report discusses the decreasing population of the Nile perch, an endangered fish, which can be found in lakes in and around Ethiopia. The first column shows the fish population in the year 2000. The second column reflects the year 2004, and the last column represents the year 2008. Here is an activity, everyone. Working with a partner, look at the expressions we used to describe the previous report. How can we change these to describe what we have learned from the new report?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello again, students. What were you able to learn about the Nile perch from this report? Let us take a closer look. Firstly, the population of Nile perch dropped slightly between 2000 and 2004. Then, the population fell dramatically between 2004 and 2008. It does not look as if the number will stabilize. In fact, it appears that if these trends continue, the population of Nile perch will fall sharply until it is extinct. Did you come to the same conclusion, everyone? If so, good job. Being clear about the information presented in reports is critical to understanding them and relating the data they show. If, for instance, we described the decrease in the Nile perch population as slight instead of dramatic, then the listener may not know how close to extinction the Nile perch is. Students, we have time for one more activity. Working together as a class, create a bar graph that shows how many people in the class have shirts of the same color. For instance, if 10 students have red shirts and 8 students have green, you would draw what you see here. Make sure your results are accurate, everyone, as you will be writing a report on these findings after the lesson. I will see you in a few minutes.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up! Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, everyone. Now that the data has been collected, work together to write about what you have found and discuss your findings with teacher and your classmates. You will use these findings to prepare a report on the clothing worn by your classmates. Pay special attention to terms that others may use that say the same thing, but use different vocabulary. Keep track of any words that you do not understand, and make sure to write them down in your vocabulary notebook. That is all the time we have for today. In this lesson, we learned how to read and write a statistical report. We analyzed and described a report using expressions to compare two sets of data. We then drew conclusions based on the data we studied. Until next time, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.